It's in your projects, Hank, and the words of this boy that inspire me to talk about my truth and how I encourage all of you to think about how we seek truth in everyday life. So in response to this boy who so boldly participated in this confessional truth word bubble, believe Hank when he says nothing in his work is his alone. It's about collaboration. Believe my mentor, Mel Chin, the artist, when he says, every day is a holiday for someone else. Believe the incredible Dr. Deborah Willis, photographer, historian, and Hank's mother, when she says, obstacles can be an opportunity. Believe me when I say we are all culpable for our actions and how we choose to use our voice. The work that is placed on the side of our building today, along with Emily Momahara's amazing work, the billboard says all lives matter, is a testament to our truth in our times, tackling centuries of lies and misrepresentation. I am humbled and honored this evening. The man whose aunt called him Mr. Big Time, to encourage him to reach further and further than his lofty goals to make a difference in this world. And let you all know that each and every one of you has to be big time as we combat these difficult moments in all of your creative practice with big hearts, big minds, and the ability to affect today and tomorrow for the better. As I turn the remote camera over to Associate Curator of Photography, Nathaniel Stein of the Cincinnati Art Museum. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Nathaniel Stein. I'm the photography curator at the Cincinnati Art Museum and the curatorial lead for the museum's presentation of Hank Willis Thomas, All Things Being Equal. Thanks for joining us for a Q&A with Hank tonight. Thank you to our partners at the Art Academy of Cincinnati for hosting this event. And thank you to Hank and his studio for all things. After tonight's conversation, if you're in Greater Cincinnati, please come spend time with Hank's artwork at the museum. Whether you plan to come to the museum or not, please explore the exhibition online at cincinnatiartmuseum.org. There are a lot of tools on the exhibition website, a lot of ways to engage virtually with this exhibition, including a free online film series that begins tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. Wherever you are, and whatever this means to you right now, please participate. Thank you and enjoy the conversation.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Emily Hanako Momohara. I'm an associate professor at the Art Academy of Cincinnati, and it is my pleasure to be here today to host this event with Hank Willis Thomas. My pronouns are she, hers. Before we get started, I just want to do a land acknowledgement. Today, we acknowledge that the Art Academy of Cincinnati sits on Osage, Shawnee, Miami, Adena, Hopewell Native lands. What we now call Cincinnati and the neighborhood of Over the Rhine is still a place where racial and economic inequality is systematically preserved. And we acknowledge that this is a living foundation that we perform the mission of the Art Academy of Cincinnati. It is my pleasure to introduce Hank Willis Thomas as our featured guest artist. Hank Willis Thomas is a conceptual artist working primarily in themes related to identity, commodity, media, perspective, and popular culture. His work has been exhibited internationally, and there's not enough time for me to tell you all the places that collects and shows his work, but a short list is the International Center for Photography in New York, the Guggenheim Museum in Spain, the Hong Kong Arts Center in Hong Kong, Crystal Bridges Art Museum in Bentonville, Arkansas, California, African American Museum in Los Angeles, and currently now the Art Academy, or the Cincinnati Art Museum, where his retrospective, All Things Being Equal, opens tonight. He's a founding member of Four Freedoms, and which is the first ever artist-run super PAC. And he's also a founding member of the Wide Awakes, a social engagement art project. His work encompasses photography and video and sculpture and multimedia, including billboards and items that are products for sale. Thomas's work is seen in private art-specific venues, as well as public centers and museums. He makes public art as well, such as the Love Overrules, permanent neon sculpture in San Francisco, and All Power to the People in Opelika, Florida. The first time I had the opportunity to meet Hank was in 2008, when he came to the Art Academy on invitation to be the Lightborn visiting artist at the Art Academy of Cincinnati. He was working on a show that he was doing at PS1 at the time, and he also worked with some of our students. He gave a lecture at the Art Museum, and he exhibited a selection of some of his work. I know him to be a generous person with his time and his art. He comes to these difficult subject matters of race in America and social change from a powerful perspective and a foundation of love. A little bit about tonight's event. We will do a question and answer style event. The questions that we are asking of Hank Willis Thomas tonight were all crowdsourced, so they came from you, the public, art activists, and of course the AAC community, including the students, alumni, faculty, and staff. We received a lot of questions. So Nathaniel Stein and I were able to go through them and pull out the main ideas and consolidate some of your questions. And of course, you AAC students, you got the first dibs on that. So your questions are all answered. Likewise, the people who will be asking the questions tonight are also members of the AAC community. So Hank, it is such an honor for us to welcome you back again. I'm going to start out just
Thanks so
by...
much. It's great to be here. Nice to see you again.
Yes, it's been a while, well, February, but you were a little busy when I saw you last.
We're all crazy. It was, the next week is when the country went into lockdown from COVID. So that was at the Four Freedoms Congress in LA. Thank you so much for exhibiting your work there. And it's great to have my work up at the Academy with you right now.
Oh, we feel so grateful for you letting us put the billboard up on the building. Thank you.
Cool.
So it like you said, it's been a crazy time. And I guess I just want to start out by asking you how you're doing, how you're coping with everything that's going on in the world right now.
I think I'm doing as good as anyone who doesn't know what's next. I don't know if there's I think we're all in various stages of waiting and working on getting through this and praying. And I'm hyper aware of the fact that anxiety about not knowing and obviously seeing the level of violence and agitation that is completely unnecessary happening in the name of justice is something that we also I mean, I can't avoid or ignore. It's I also think that there's we're living in a historic moment, and I think none of us were really ready for it. And now it has to be, it's exciting.
All right, well, shall we jump into some of these questions?
Shall we?
All right.
I love all the cameras behind you, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I'm in our media center right now. I needed a double screen, so here I am. Okay. David, I think you have the first question. Yeah.
Hello, Hank. I'm David Butler. I am a professor here at the Art Academy of Cincinnati and I am also the chair of the illustration department. Been a huge fan of your work for a very long time, so it's very great to meet you, whether it's virtually or not. I'm happy that you are here. I'm happy that you are working. I'm happy that you are safe and well. The first question I have for you is from Kelly Carr and Frank Gips. It's kind of a two-part question. It's what was the particular moment and season in your life when you truly realized the power of art has to enact change? And the moment that you moved to recognize your own calling to speak through your creations? And was there a key moment that helped you launch your career and take your practice to the next level?
Those are great questions. Can I just ask you, do we call you Professor Butler? Can you show us your shirt?
Oh, culture not for,
Not for sale. Okay. Well, thank you. So maybe you could be read African culture not for sale, right? Well, for me, I'm inspired by everything I see all the time. I can't spot a moment where I don't find myself inspired by work and artwork, and that always changes me. So I think I'm always in a process of changing and growing and realizing that I'm impacted. And I presume that I'm not that different from anyone else. So if it affects me, it must affect somebody else. I love the work behind you as well. So thank you for sharing that.
I just happen to have that here in my house.
I'm also the worst interviewee because I'm like, tell me about it. And I'll answer the question too with tell me about it, because you're showing us work and it's important.
This is a piece from a show I recently just took down and had to move back into my house because of COVID. The gallery I was showcasing at was closed down for the season, of course. And it's a piece called She Knows Who She Is, which is basically placing Black women that I know here in Ohio that are scholars, forward thinkers and like powerful women, and placing them in kind of these roles of powerful Black women from the past. So this is my dear friend, Dr. Treva Lindsay, as Harriet Tubman. She's the Women's and Gender Sexuality Studies chair over at The Ohio State University.
Cool. Well, thank you for that. Well, let's start. And you being in Cincinnati, I think you also are hyper aware of the importance of so many escaping slaves and getting to Cincinnati, right? And finding, some respite and maybe be on the way to liberation or full emancipation. And within my own work, I think a lot of the photography of that period is what actually changed my perception of the impact of art. My mother, Deborah Willis, is a photographer, an art historian, a scholar like many of the women you're talking about, who knew who she was, who knows who she is, and was not convinced by the images that were put out in the public of Black people as, less than humans, buffoons, etc., in mainstream society. And she took it upon herself to go and find photographs from the 19th century taken by Black photographers of Black people. And I grew up, while she was doing that research. Her first book was called Black Photographers, 1840 to 1940, a biobibliography. And who knew that there were images of African Americans that were so beautiful and dignified, taken 2 decades before the Emancipation Proclamation, that in 1840s United States and as early as 1839, people like Augustus Washington, Black people were making photographs, which meant that you had to be on the cutting edge of science and technology, understand mechanics and physics and chemistry, and have the curiosity and the means and the enterprising aptitude to make a photograph, and which was so complex that none of us could even figure it out right now. And so I've always been inspired by the stories that aren't told, and by the storytellers who aren't making the stories, making the work just to be just for the fun of it or just for the fame of it. And so I think that reality that it might take 150 years for someone to even realize what I am doing is important is something that I've always felt comfortable and inspired by it. And then the moment that I feel like the moment, I don't know, there are many moments when you're loved, which I've benefited from. There are many moments where you probably don't deserve an accolade, but you get it,
Yeah.
and because you love the people, you believe them. And
Mhm.
so, I mean, I was encouraged by sometimes friends and teachers and professors to follow my curiosity into photography myself,
Yeah.
and then keep going and keep doing it, even though I wasn't as good as a lot of my friends and peers. And I just never gave
You got
up.
the support. You got the support.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So thank you for the question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna hop off here. It's great to meet you.
Great to meet you too. See you soon, I hope. Because I got to come out.
For sure. For sure. For sure.
Hello, my name is Lydia Richardson. I also go by Lade and Ladi. I am a junior at the Art Academy of Cincinnati, and I'm majoring in sculpture and minoring in illustration design. I'm also the captain of the Social Impact Club at my school, and I'm a former, well, not a former, I'm a fellow ambassador there too. So I have 3 questions for you from Bryce Bennett and Javon Elijah. They are, um, what has your experience as an Black artist been like? What obstacles do Black artists run into? Do you have any advice to Black artists who are entering in a MFA program?
Well, I don't think my experience of, thank you for the questions.
Mhm.
And I love the way that your head wrap bandana matches whatever's behind you.
Yeah, thank
Well
you.
coordinated. Uh, I am, yeah, I don't think my experience as a Black artist is any different than my experience as a Black person in America. I actually don't often refer to myself as an artist. I refer to myself as a person, because I think at any given moment, someone's ability to hear, see, or understand my personhood might actually save my life. I'm not sure of any other title for me and what's important to me, which is my survival and the survival and health of my family. I don't know if anything else is more important. I also had the privilege of growing up around and with artists. So I
Mhm.
also never really had particularly high hopes, for better and for worse, about my opportunities or even the ability to become successful. You know, my mother, um, who is very successful, really didn't become quote unquote successful as an artist, and maybe not even as a historian until her 40s and 50s. And she's a Black woman, and so that meant that a lot of the challenges I face are probably, double if not more, for her, especially when she was building in her career. But I got to see her and her peers so close up and understand the deep passion and integrity and commitment that was the root of their work, and that it was a personal journey and a personal passion that didn't need the validation of at least a degree in or art market for it to be made. And then the last question, or about the struggles, yeah, I feel like again those are the struggles. James Baldwin said the struggle for an artist to for their integrity should be considered as a metaphor for the struggle, which is universal and daily for all human beings to get to become human beings. And I think that's regardless of your quote unquote racial or ethnic or gender identity. It's just the struggle is to be be as authentic to who you are, um, which I think in the face of so much judgment and so much temptation is and so much complication is really hard every day. And we probably fail more than we succeed, but we don't quit. So we're still on a winning streak.
All right,
Thank
I'll
you.
pass to the
Glad
next
to
person. You're welcome.
Hi, Hank. My
Hi.
name is Kimberly Walker, and I'm an Art Academy of Cincinnati class of 2020 sculpture. So love is a main theme in your work. Can you talk about the role that love takes in your work and the process?
It's funny. It seems like love is the main theme, but it just doesn't feel like there's enough of it for me. I think because when we hear the word love, it's so generic often, and it's hard to even talk about it without feeling like you're just spewing some BS. And that's why I'm like, I don't feel like I've achieved a mastery or a language of love that I feel matches at least my intention or the necessity or the value I place on it, or even the definition. I realized that just this week about that my definition of love, I've talked about it, but I haven't really defined it, because love means something different to different people, because we learn about love through our loved ones, and we don't all have the same experience in home and growing up, and we also don't always respond the same to the same experiences, because we're all different. So I think about love as really, and I haven't yet even tried to define it, so watch me now. Love is, to me, it's what brought you all here tonight. It's what brought me here. And it's that thing, that part of yourself that requires and understands and appreciates that we all need nourishment. And that nourishment is often best consumed in community. And that we, and everything we can and should do, should be either independently or together, preparing for these opportunities for nourishment, self-nourishment, and the nourishing of others. And that doesn't mean it has to feel good. It doesn't all, so for me, being loved or loving don't look nice all the time, doesn't feel nice all the time. I think there is it when we're really quiet and we're outside of our egos and we're not in our pain bodies, where we're not necessarily, we're not concerned or acting out of fear, we can tap into it, and it's pretty sublime. It's not that goody two-shoe sugary feeling, which is, I think, as much of a deception as the feeling, sensation we have associated with hate. It's that sureness that comes when and so I think, so I talk about and believe that love is an action. It's not a feeling. It's not a sensation. It's like something that's so rich and so deep inside of you that it cannot, should not be explained. Yet and still, it is all powerful and all present, and we know it. I don't know. I mean, I don't mean to say I don't know, but I just said it, so I know, because it's what you know.
Right, it's your experience that you're saying, that you're telling us right now.
Yeah.
It's,
and it's the love of self that keeps you here, and I'm so proud of you. Congratulations. 2020, that's what a year to finish. And I gotta say, I know there was at least a few professors and the president that I think teaching in colleges and universities, especially teaching artists, is like such an act of love, because it is about helping people who don't necessarily understand or feel or accept their true powers, helping them nourish it and become confident in it and build it. So much gratitude to you all. And yet Mel Chen is a beast and a champion as well, Joe. So thank you for that.
thank you for the answer.
See your work soon.
Okay.
Kimberly Walker.
Hi, Hank. I'm so delighted that you're here and grateful for this conversation so far, just sincerely. I'm Emily Everhart, and I'm assistant professor of art history at the Art Academy of Cincinnati. And my question for you is actually my question, so you can criticize it as well. We can, but my question is, well, your work deals with and exists in public spaces, represents collective action, critiques all kinds of media and modes of representation. One great example of this out of many is All Power to All People, a public monument in Philadelphia that's now on view at the Cincinnati Art Museum. I'm curious, having said all of that, I'm not going to ask you about other people's work. I'm curious what you think might be the functions, the meanings, the effects, and or the implications of both the publicly and privately funded Black Lives Matter murals that have been painted across the country this summer.
What's the question again?
So what do you think about the Black Lives Matter murals that have been painted across the country this summer?
You gave me license to critique that question. Am I
Sure.
wrong?
Yeah.
That is not a good question.
Why?
What do I think about it? It's cool.
Well, the full question was the functions, the meanings, the effects, the implications, especially I'm thinking in terms of their funding, some of them being publicly funded, some of them being privately funded.
You know what my new motto is?
No.
I am not an art historian, right? And I totally believe that the person who asks the question usually has the answer.
Oh.
So, Professor, with your when I said it's not a good question, it's because the question told me that you have some thoughts about it that I should be responding to it rather than pontificating, because there's layers into the question. So tell me what you think about the effectiveness of these publicly and privately funded Black Lives Matter murals and installations all across the country at this summer.
Well, I mean, I'm a little bit suspicious of some that have been privately funded and how effective they'll be in bringing us together. But I also don't know. I mean, it's not a question with my own predetermined answer. I think there are obviously really positive elements of these projects, and it's the question comes from multiple threads, yes, of art historians sharing new examples and offering comparisons to public art from history, and where do they fit in the history of public art is maybe a better question, and one that I sincerely don't know the answer to, and I'm really interested in your thoughts on.
Yeah, that sounds like a really important article that I hope doesn't just come out in an art history journal. So I hope that you will share with us, the greater conversation. And I think that the efficacy and also the context from past moments, whether it be during the Civil Rights era or during the Great Depression, I think or before, or in other parts of the world, whether it be, Cold War Germany or France. I think the context for the question requires a deeper reading, which is why I can't compare without really seeing and knowing all the things that you're implying. I can also say that when you said that you're suspicious, it said to me, we do know that Russian trolls were involved in the quote unquote Black Lives Matter movement in 2016, and that if we're students of history, we know about COINTELPRO and other forms of U.S. government sanctioned counterintelligence that was designed to create division and spite. So I think it's reasonable to be suspicious when something doesn't seem quite right. I don't know if it's about publicly or privately funded, because, you know, I don't know anything that's not that. I do think that's so I would love to. I feel like in order to answer the question authentically, I'd probably have to speak specifically about certain things. I can just say that it's a really exciting time and sad time. It's sad because after how many centuries of being Black, you know, was it, I don't know, like 200, if not more, thousands, I don't know, that it's still necessary to say Black Lives Matter, as if we didn't all come from Africa, and that the root of most of our knowledge and our culture isn't in some way, quote unquote, Black. So that's a great, so the shame to me is the fact that humanity is still in a state of trying to acknowledge, you know, the basics. And that's something that I would hope, because of all the effort and the promotion and the energy that's happening now, that we can get off of square one, you know, because even in the 1960s, we were talking about Black power, and that nuance was lost because it assumed that Black power was about taking away, quote unquote, white power. Whereas Fred Hampton said, and so many others, you know, and up until the Black Panthers of today and the remaining Black Panther leaders, that it was always about all power to all people, you know, and power to the people, which, and so Black power has always been inclusive, whereas white power is about exclusivity. There's one that's based in this notion of abundance, connected to infinite wisdom and ancestral wisdom. There's one based in scarcity, from people who are afraid that they're not enough and that the world won't be there for them when they need it. So I'm much more curious about those. Like, the concepts are interesting, but like the article that you all write, please send to me. And if you can't figure out where to put it up, I'll post it. That's what I just want to. I want to understand that conversation better.
I do too. I'll let you know. I'll let you know about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm back. All right.
Mhm.
Thank you for that answer. We have another question from several of our Art Academy of Cincinnati students who were asking, your All Lives Matter billboard is up at the AAC. And so they have a bit of a two-part question about the billboard. Some of the students first read the words as All Lives Matter. Can you explain how you arrived at the words you used and what it means? Secondly, we have seen you show the All Lives Matter banner together with Trans Lives Matter and Black Lives Matter. But we also know that the billboard All Lives Matter was created as a standalone piece. Are you worried about any misunderstandings that could occur when All Lives Matter is alone without the context of the other pieces?
Thank you for the question, and it's a very thoughtful question. Simple answer, am I worried? No. I don't believe that you can make any work of art and put it out and be worried. Authentic, you know, like earnestly worried. You can be like, you know, ooh, let's see what happens. I don't know. Am I going to get in trouble? But we're not worried when we put our work out. You know, Audre Lorde said it's better to speak knowing we were never meant to survive, in her incredible poem, A Litany for Survival. And it's okay in my book to speak and say, so I'd rather speak and say something wrong and learn from it than to just be quiet and be complicit in things that I know are much, much more dangerous. I believe all lives matter. I think everyone believes, everyone who says Black Lives Matter believes all lives matter. The challenge that of the counter response to all lives matter in when people say Black Lives Matter is that they're in between the lines of that they're saying all lives matter, but some more than others.
Word.
And the phrase, I realized how simple it is to show the truth of that lie, which was just by removing a single letter, and it takes on a different resonance. And the fact that people are willing to fight and argue and sometimes kill over a few words or misunderstanding of a few letters really says how far off the mark we are when we respond out of anger and fear and pain. I'm excited that the Human Rights Campaign decided when they exhibited it to put two other signs, Trans Lives Matter and Black Lives Matter, next to it. They did not ask me, they just did it. And I was like, yep, that just and that's the beauty of it. My work has greater context, greater meaning.
Yeah.
And because of, those juxtapositions. And I really love that. And wish I had thought about it, but I don't think it would have been as good.
Yeah. Understandable. Thank you for your answer.
Thank you.
Okay, I have 3 questions from Joshua Coles, which are, who are the Wide Awakens? What is the historical connection with Cincinnati? And how did your Wide Awakens project take form?
Well, that was a plant. That's from my brother Joshua Kloss, who is one of the people who really is an incredible artist from Chicago and New York, who opened my mind and my eyes to other dimensions, and recognizing that often in the places and in the people who society doesn't find value is actually the greatest value that we have, and that it's something that should be not only cherished but exalted. And I believe he was the inspiration for the song Ultralight Beam by Kanye and Swizz. I'm just messing with him. But that's how I think of him. And our collaboration, The Wide Awakes, which I hope all of you are among, is a disorganized emancipation project where all of us, all of you, have had some form of awakening this year, where we woke up. This was the year of the wake-up call to things that we don't like, that we're uncomfortable with, things that we love and adore that we never gave enough attention to, whether that be our health, our family members, our partners, our friends, the criminal justice system, the healthcare system, the government, the electoral system. We've all woken up to something, and I don't think there's ever been a time in human history where more people, in recent human history, where more people were in a more similar state of awareness about the stakes of each and every life. And we were inspired, I'm talking about you also, Lede, as a wide awake, are inspired by this emancipation movement that we weren't really taught about in school, which was called the Wide Awakes, who in 1860 were a pro-women's suffrage, pro-immigration, and pro-abolition party that rallied for the end of slavery in not only their lifetimes, really in the next few years. And this was the biggest business in the country. And they did that through using music, dance, coordination. And they even drafted someone named Abraham Lincoln, basically from their ranks, to be a champion of that message. And there was a man named Cassius Marcellus Clay from Lexington, Kentucky, who was a rich white man who was also an abolitionist. And so dangerous was that there were incredible threats on his life. And he even he decided to put a newspaper called the True American in Cincinnati as a hub to tell the real story of American history and American reality, which was that slavery was as much, if not more, of a stain on the kind of the record, so to speak, of white people as it was on Black people, because of the inhumanity and also the inefficiency of it all. And so we are thinking about, like, in the 20th century, 21st century, that, I was thinking about Bob Marley and Marcus Garvey, who said, we need to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. How do we start to really think about what does the 21st century emancipation movement look like? And we as artists, as writers, as historians, as critics, we actually have been training ourselves to have a keen eye and telling the incredible stories. So we need to, you can't build a building without actually the blueprints. We can't draw something without actually imagining it. And so how can we live in a liberated future and a liberated America if we don't actually make it real? So the collaboration with you all is that each and every one of us can use our third, fourth, and fifth eyes to help create this greater awakening, not only in this country, but across the world, that will make this 2020 vision something others will not forget. You're just nodding. I don't know what you think about it.
Yeah. I'm agreeing with you.
What do you disagree with?
I don't disagree with anything at the moment from what you said at the moment.
That's nice. Well, because your generation, I presume you're younger than me, and you all really have the keys, so just be good to us, please.
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, hey. So we have a question from about 3 other people this time, representing someone else's question. We got a few questions about the whiteness of the art world and American art museums, and about how the Cincinnati Art Museum can be an ally to Black and Indigenous communities and to people of color going forward. Your work critiques power structures and is exhibited within these institutions. So there are 2 questions. 1, how do you navigate this landscape and make your choices? And 2, do you feel art museums like the Cincinnati Art Museum are allies, and how can they be better allies?
Wow. Well, thank you for this really complicated question. Nameless person. They don't have a name?
There were multiple people asked similar questions.
What are their names?
I don't have their names.
Oh, they set you up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are on occupied land, as Emily started off this conversation, and that the problematics and the horrors of a history that every structure on this continent exists cannot ever be rectified. The destruction to not only native lands, to the waters, and to the people is not something that can ever be forgiven or forgotten or made right. I don't think that the enslavement and kidnapping of people of African descent and the raping of millions of women is something that we can ever fully make right or accept, or I also think, of course, that the pauperism and the many forms of injustice that brought so many immigrants from all across the world here is something, and those injustices are things that cannot be forgotten or rectified. We have to acknowledge that every institution and every computer that we're looking at this on is a result of rape, exploitation, and murder. Children in the Congo likely, mine the coltan that's in this computer. What are we going to do about it? It's not me. What are we going to do about it? How do we sit in comfort and drink quote unquote clean water, knowing that in order to have it, we have to poison others? Those are the questions of the 21st century. That's why the show is called All Things Being Equal, because the question is, how can we ever actually achieve equality or equity in a system that has always been, its nature, unjust and made only more so by human greed. And if it weren't for the human greed, I'm sure the school that you all are part of wouldn't exist, and nor would the museum where my show is exhibiting, and or the materials that my work is manifesting in. So I only hope, and this is where we come into this space of faith, that on Judgment Day, that that the efforts that I make to uplift the spirit and connect to the kind of higher power that's in each and every one of us, the higher calling, will be enough. I don't believe in telling allies how to be allies, because I don't want them to tell me how to be me. I believe that they know what's right, and they know deep down inside, if they look close enough, what to do. And sometimes it's just being there and listening. Sometimes it's going all out, and I don't know which one and when they're supposed to do it. And so I find myself struggling sometimes, because as I am wearing these Adidas pants or wearing Nike sneakers, and knowing that my work often critiques that and has always, but I've definitely made more money I've probably given them more my money than I've made off of those works. And so I'm not outside of the systems that I'm trying to critique. I don't think anyone truly can be if you speak English, which is a colonial language. And so when I know that the tongue in which I speak and the way in which I think is colonized from the get, it's these other ways that I think only art can help, because there aren't words for it, to find exaltation and liberation, and especially when it connects to to others who you're not speaking to in a vocal or literal way. So I navigate these treacherous waters again, knowing that I'm not meant to survive. Also hoping that one day, somewhere, somehow, someone will find an artifact or an essence of something I make and feel that connection the way that I have and so many others do. Critique art historian.
No.
No.
We want to hear from you, not from me.
I do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello again.
Hi.
So this is my question, my personal question. Do you ever get to the point while making art that the pain of the subject is just too much to bear? And how do you pull yourself out of that, whatever that is?
Well, believe it or not, I'm pretty much a softie. So like when it gets too intense for me, I'm like, I can't deal with this. I need to try to make something else. And I think, for instance, I did a show about lynching, and I wasn't sure. There was some work that I made out of that. I wasn't sure in making the work that I wasn't participating in the lynching, because, you know, I found myself gawking. I found myself like obsessively looking at, you know, people who were tortured and died as a spectacle for people like me and others to look at and pontificate. I'm not saying that you can't talk about these issues thoughtfully, or with true authenticity and intention. I couldn't look. I couldn't look without 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 judging my looking, and that came in with my work about my cousin Sunga, who was murdered at gunpoint. And there's a picture in my book, Pitch Blackness, of him on the table, on the autopsy table. And it's a horrific image for me, even though he's still beautiful. And I always felt there's exploitation in even showing that. You know, I also talked to my aunt about it, his mother, and she really felt resolved in her belief that even she believed in me and the work and intentions behind it even deeper than I did, because she understood and encouraged me to make something of that story and to help. It seems like I've been failing all along, since over 200,000 people have been, you know, shot and killed in our country since my cousin was murdered. But to contribute to that conversation and maybe help to change some minds.
Thank you.
You're on mute.
I am. Thank you. We had more questions, but we have run out of time. And I know that there is another event tonight at the museum. And so I want to make sure that we allow folks time to get to that virtually. So I'm going to ask the last question. It's from Colleen O'Connor, and she's on the committee for the community committee that the Art Museum put together. And it's a broad but hopeful question. She says, what is your hope for the future?
Selfishly, I hope to be alive. You know, I think all of us, you know, that we're doing, it's a pandemic where people are dying by the thousands every day. And well, you know, people are dying by the millions, but people are dying of COVID by the thousands every day. And people are dying from avoidable diseases and from unnecessary violence every day. And a lot of us in the United States have been so privileged that a lot of the you know, the I'm just going to say injustice that's kind of reaped in our name rarely ever touches us, which is why so many people come here. And I, you know, don't want to see the chickens come home to roost. And then I think in order for that to happen, I think me and everyone, that's why I believe so deeply in this Wide Awakes, need to take on the responsibility and do the work without shame, without fear, because we don't know who is going to survive and even what the value of surviving is. I want to be an old Black man just because it's like so rare. You know, I'm aiming for 88, but if technology gets better, I want to get to like 108. But 88 has like this double infinity.
Well, that's a lucky number.
Yeah.
So
Tell me, it's a lucky number.
No, it's just one of those home. If you turn 88, you're gonna have a big party.
Heck yeah.
That's one of those numbers. Yeah.
And so that hope of being an old Black man seems trivial, but look around.
Well, I hope you get to be an old Black man too.
Thank you.
I'm just going to make a few announcements before we let you go. So the Art Museum has quite a few, for everyone out there, the Art Museum has a lot of programming around the exhibition. It is open as of tonight, so you can go wearing masks and socially distancing. And I just want to thank, look at Joe popped on the screen here. He's our president of the Art Academy, and everyone who worked on this project, especially Nathaniel Stein, who couldn't be here because he's at the museum right now for the opening. At 8 o'clock, there's going to be a film screening. There's a screening of films that Hank has curated, films that have meant a lot to him. So there's one about Grace Lee Boggs that starts at 8 o'clock tonight. And then across the next couple weeks, there's gonna be some Q&As and discussions. A big one tomorrow night. Starts at 7 o'clock. And Hank will be on a panel talking about art, advertising, and social change. I wanna put that in there. Did you wanna say something, Joe?
Just briefly, thank you, Emily, for all this, and all Ladie, Kim, David Michael Butler, Emily Everhart, everybody who put this event together. Amazing, amazing, amazing. And most of all, Hank, thank you for your honesty and your generosity with this. For our students, it means the world. And thank you so much. Be strong.
I'm muted again. Virtually, let's all give Hank a hand, snaps.
And I wanted to say thank you all. I went to a small college for graduate school, California College of the Arts, and it's nothing like the community that's built at a smaller school. I pray you continue to do the work and continue to get the support. You're so lucky to have Emily and Joe and Charles. And I am excited for you all to see the show before I do. I'm getting out there soon. It looks amazing. It's one of those shows where you're like, I did that. And so it has to be the curation and the lighting. But so I'm so grateful for that. And thank you all for the love and support.
All right. Good night, everyone.
I met David.